Welcome students. Today we will be discussing about heat and it is for the class 7 standard. So what is heat? So heat is a form of energy. Heat is a form of energy. And if a body takes some heat from outside, the body will become hotter. And if the body releases some heat, it will become cooler. So heat is a form of energy. If a body takes it, it becomes hotter. And if a body releases it, it becomes cooler. So we will describe heat elaborately. So here we go. So heat is a form of energy. It can flow from one substance to another substance. Remember, it can flow from one substance to another substance. And the body which gains heat, the body which gains some heat, it will become hotter. And the body which loses heat, it will tend to become cooler. So it is a physical quantity, means it can be measurable or it can be measured. So it's a physical quantity, it can be measured. And the SI unit of heat is joule and the corresponding CGS unit of heat is calorie. So remember, these are the two units of heat. SI unit of heat is joule and the CGS unit of heat is calorie. Now what is hot and cold? Students, you will agree that you are very familiar to these words, hot and cold. So in our daily life, we come across a number of objects. We come across numerous objects. Some of them are to be felt hot. Some of them are to be felt cold. Means some of them are hot and some of them are cold. Example, tea is hot and ice is cold. So the feeling of hotness or coldness is completely relative. What is meant by that? What is the term relative standing for? That means some objects are hotter than others and some are colder than others, and we decide which one is hotter and which one is colder by touching them. So if a person touches an object and the person considers the object to be hotter object, it is not necessary that another person will touch that same object and will consider the same object as much hot as it was earlier considered. That means the next person, the second person who is touching the object will not feel that much of hot, because the sensation of touching, the sensation of touching varies from different persons to persons. So one person can consider an object to be very hot, but another person may not consider the object, the same object, to be that much of hot. So the result or the consideration or the conclusion is not unanimous. If we rely on the touch, if we rely on our touching to decide which one is hotter and which one is colder, so the consideration, the final consideration will not be unanimous and uniform. So we cannot rely on our touch to measure hotness or coldness. So there has to have a scientific process by which we can measure the degree of hotness or coldness. So let us perform an experiment to show the relative feeling of hotness and coldness. Yes, the activity 1. So what is the experiment? Take 3 tumblers, take 3 beakers containing warm water, tap water and cold water from your refrigerator and mark them A, B and C respectively. So you can see the tumbler A contains warm water, not the boiling water, warm water. B is containing tap water and C contains some cold water. The water is from the refrigerator. Then gently dip your one hand to the beaker A and the other hand to the beaker C. So A contains warm water and gently dip your one hand to the beaker A, and the C contains cold water and dip another hand to the beaker C. Note down your feeling, what you have observed. Then remove both the hands from the respective beakers and dip both the hands to the beaker B together. Note down your feeling. Try to infer from this activity. So when you dip your one hand to the warm water beaker, you will feel definitely hot, and the other hand will feel cold because it was dipped into the beaker C, which contains some cold water. And now you remove both hands and simultaneously you just dip both the hands to the beaker B together. So in beaker B, tap water is present. So you may feel that the hand which was dipped earlier in the beaker A, that hand will be feeling a little cooler, because initially it was feeling hotter because it was dipped in the beaker A. Now it is dipped in the tap water beaker, that hand, and so that hand will feel a little bit cooler. And the hand which was earlier dipped in the beaker C containing cold water, that hand now, after getting dipped into the beaker B, that hand will feel a little bit warmer. So you are dipping both the hands to the beaker B, but in both hands the feeling is different. So note down your feeling and try to infer from this activity. So there is something which is controlling the degree of hotness and coldness. So what is that? Yes, correctly guessed. This is the temperature. So basically, to measure the degree of hotness and coldness for a body, we need to introduce a quantity which is temperature. So temperature is the quantity which measures the degree of hotness and coldness of an object. And students, you might know how the temperature of a body can be measured. What is the instrument that can measure the temperature of a body? You all know, that is thermometer. We will come to that topic a little later. So temperature is the quantity which measures the degree of hotness and coldness of an object. So this is the definition of temperature. Students, note that point. Temperature is the quantity which measures the degree of hotness and coldness of an object. Temperature is the quantity which decides which body will release heat and which body will take that heat when they come in contact. So the heat always flows from the object of higher temperature, from the hotter body, to the object of lower temperature, that means to the colder body. And last this point, if no third object will interfere this heat flow and no chemical reaction will take place between those two objects, then heat lost by the hotter body equals to heat gained by the colder body. It is not well included in your syllabus, but for your information, it is necessary to know, if no third object will interfere this heat flow, the heat flow between the two objects, which one is gaining the released heat and which one is liberating heat. If no third party will interfere this heat flow and no chemical change will take place between the two objects which are exchanging heat, then heat lost by the hotter body, the amount of heat lost by the hotter body will be equal to the amount of heat gained by the colder body. So temperature is measured by a device, by an instrument called thermometer. And remember one thing for your information, heat can be measured with calorimeter. So calorimeter is a device that measures heat. The SI unit of temperature is Kelvin. There are 3 scales of temperature, of measuring the temperature. One is degree Celsius, another is degree Fahrenheit, and third one is Kelvin scale. And what is the effect of heat? So heat can affect different things. Physical change, that means change in temperature, one of the physical changes. So on adding heat to the body, the temperature increases. If we supply some heat to a body, the temperature of that very body will increase. And on removal of heat, if we suck out the heat from that body, the temperature decreases. It can also change the state of, it can also affect the change of state. It can also change the state of matter. On addition or removal of heat to or from the body, the change of state occurs. So due to addition of heat or removal of heat, the change of state of matter can occur. But then remember one thing, the temperature remains constant, and that heat has got a very special name called latent heat. Latent heat. So this heat is responsible for the change of state of matter, and when the change of state of matter is taking place, then the temperature remains constant. Example, change of state from ice to water at 0 degree temperature, 0 degree Celsius temperature. And heat can also cause some thermal expansion. The matter can expand due to heating, and the phenomenon is known as thermal expansion. So the matter, the object, can expand due to heating. We can see, we have seen that, we have seen the mercury column is increasing, is getting expanded when the heat is supplied to the thermometer. So a bimetallic strip can get bent when it is exposed under severe heating. So bimetallic strips, you know, two metals in a strip, and one metal is expanding more and one metal is expanding less. So the bimetallic strips can get bent. So these are the few examples of thermal expansion in our daily life. So the matter can expand due to heating, and the phenomenon is known as thermal expansion. So these are the effects of heat. Heat can cause this kind of effects, and also chemical changes. So on heating, chemical change can also take place. Yes, measurement of temperature. The instrument by which the temperature of a body is measured is called thermometer. Thermometer is mainly of two types: Celsius thermometer, that means the scale of the thermometer, and the Fahrenheit thermometer. Construction and the graduation of thermometer. A thermometer has a glass tube sealed at both ends and is partly filled with a liquid like mercury. So mercury is the liquid metal which is present inside the thermometer. So mercury is stored at the bulb of the thermometer. So there is a bulb, you have seen probably, and we will show the picture. In the bulb of the thermometer, some amount of mercury is stored. So there is a narrow capillary tube which also through which the mercury moves. So there is a narrow capillary tube through which the mercury can move. So capillary tube means whose radius, the tube's radius is very, very small. The bore is very, very small. As the temperature around thermometer's bulb heats up, the liquid rises in the glass tube. The glass tube is mounted on a backboard that is marked in units called degrees. So there is a calibration. There is a marking. When it is hot, the liquid inside the thermometer will expand and rise in the tube. The opposite happens when it is cold, when it is cooled. The temperature on a thermometer is read by finding the level of the mercury in the tube and the number of on the temperature scale sorry, across from it. So we can measure the reading by finding the level of the liquid in the tube and the number on the temperature scale across from it. So there are different numbers, there are different calibrations. So we will find where the mercury column stands, and we should take down the reading, we should take down the number where it stands, where it reached. The temperature is written in numbers with the degree sign. For example, 70F is read, and it will be read as 70 degree Fahrenheit. So you can see the pictorial representation. There is a bulb, a capillary tube, a narrow capillary tube is running inside it, and there is a calibration. Few scaling and markings are there. Bulb, the reservoir for containing most of the thermometric liquid called mercury. Stem, the glass tube having a capillary bore along which the liquid moves with changes in temperature. and the scale, a narrow temperature range scale for reading a reference temperature. So this is the pictorial representation of thermometer, and that is all about the initial part of the heat and the temperature. Thank you.